Okay. All right. No, that's enough of that. Okay, there you go. That is from a rapper, singer. Lil Dicky is his name. I think you probably heard Justin Bieber in there, Ariana Grande. I don't know who the skunk was. Snoop Dogg was there. You can figure out who that is. I don't think Kanye West was actually Kanye West, but there's a bunch of famous people in there. Came out, I think, 2 years ago. It is Earth Day. And that was the edited version, which if you're going to look that song up, you should play the edited version. Okay, that's just my advice. So let's get into Fuller's 5 questions with sound effects. I don't know if we have sound effects today or not, but I don't know. Here we go. World history. What we do have is notes that I haven't already given you. Like yesterday, we watched notes that I had already given you. So today we have notes. So and I'm answering this because obviously you kids would be like, well, I can just picture it. Like if we were in class, like I'm not going to name names, but just like imagine someone like, you know, I don't know, somebody just being like, hey, Mr. Fuller, are you older than Earth Day? Because I heard Earth Day is 50. This is the 50th birthday of Earth Day. And I'm like, Marky Hansen, okay, yeah. Obviously, I am not older than Earth Day, okay? Earth Day was around many years before Mr. Fuller was. So this is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So it is turning 50, although the Earth is quite a bit older than that. But it is Earth Day. That's why we wore a green shirt today. I don't know. I didn't have one with an Earth, but that's my theme. Yesterday was Jersey Day, College Day, and today is Earth Day. Green. Go green. So there you go. And it's Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi is the shirt that this is. All right. Am I missing anything? I'm getting this question like, hey, Mr. Fuller, am I missing anything? Okay, great question. Check Infinite Campus because, you know, sometimes it gets a little confusing. Like what is due and what is Mr. Fuller just posting and like what do I actually have to turn in? So if you want, you can go to Infinite Campus and see if there's any blank score. That means I haven't entered it yet. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't do it. If it's specifically an M, then you didn't do it at the time that I entered grades. Can you still do that assignment? Yes, 100%. Yes, you can do it. Am I going to dock you points for turning in late? No. Does that mean just put it off and just wait and do it later? No, because eventually the work is going to pile up and it's going to seem very overwhelming. So stay caught up to date. If you get something like a day or two late, hey, you still get full credit for it, but just stay as close to caught up to date as you possibly can because it's going to reduce the amount of stress and work in the long run anyway. Okay. 3. I didn't do last week's assignment yet. Can I still do it? Yes. I actually got an email at 3:30 in the morning. I think that's what time it was. I was not, there's a hawk flying by. Sorry, I'm distracted. I did not respond. I didn't get the email. Like I wasn't aware of it, but I was at the timestamp. I responded at 5 in the morning because I was actually awake by 5. So yes, you can do last week's assignment. And this student said, hey, Mr. Fuller, I did not do well the first time. Can I redo it? Yes. All of my quizzes are set up to be taken 5 times. If you need more than that, you can reach out and ask me, and we can figure that out. But everything is set up to take 5 times. Get the score that you want. Redo it. You know, that's what we're about here. I'm for sure want to give you that opportunity. And I forgot this week, but next week we might even return to. I should get a drum roll for the JBL Pulse. Oh, yeah. Anyway, next week we might bring back everybody's favorite question on quizzes. What question is that? The redemption question. Ooh, exciting. This is what's exciting. Are we doing new notes today? Yes, we are. I gave notes yesterday, and like halfway through, I realized that I had already given those. But I was like, well, we're just going to keep going. So I apologize. It's not like you're like, Mr. Fuller, we know World War I, backwards, forwards, upside down, and inside out, right? So it was okay to go over them again. We talked about Verdun, and we did Passchendaele, battles, trench warfare, that kind of stuff. But we are doing new notes today. And finally, are we meeting today? Yeah, between 10 and 11:30. If you'd like to meet, I will be available. Okay. But let's get into notes for today. First of all, let's go back to this Verdun. Told you it was the epitome of trench warfare. Yeah, those are some questions on the quizzes that you got yesterday. So it's still good to review that stuff. This becomes a war, not a stalemate, but a war of attrition. Both sides are losing. The side that's going to win is the one who has the most people, which is eventually what happened. Okay. Verdun was the battle that basically exemplifies, trench warfare to the highest extent. Passchendaele was another one right there. I am going to post these notes on Classroom. You can watch this clip on your own if you like. I did. Wait a second here. Passchendaele. That's highlighted as well. Maybe I should click on that and see if there's a link. Last time I clicked on a link, you guys couldn't hear it because it was on the computer, but now with the JBL Pulse. So I'm going to play a video clip for you. Wonder what it could be. Oh, it's Wonder Woman. Let's go. Okay, so this kind of shows you, well, at least what they thought in 2017, what trench warfare was like. Let's watch it. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Here we go. Ooh, I feel like she's going to be like, I have no man. Oh, dang. I think it's totally fair because for years we've gotten to watch Captain America and Iron Man and people like that doing things that are totally impossible too. So and now we see Wonder Woman doing it. All right, so United States enters the war. Anybody remember when the war started? 1914. Anybody remember when I told you the United States entered the war? 1917. Really, two events lead to it. One, the Germans had signed what was called the Sussex Pledge. The Sussex Pledge was Germany saying they were going to basically stop sinking U.S. ships. Okay. Then the Germans sank a boat called the Lusitania. The Lusitania was a passenger ship that was sunk, and it made the United States quite angry. However, it wasn't necessarily a passenger ship because we had weapons on the ship that we were bringing to England. So we said basically, Germany, stop sinking our ships because we're not involved in this war. But then we were actually helping England as part of the Triple Entente, and Germany sank our ship, and we're like, okay, the gloves are off. We're getting to war. The other thing, if you remember, was the Zimmerman Telegram. Zimmerman Telegram was Germany sent a message to Mexico saying, hey, if you declare war in the United States, we will help you, and we will help you reclaim the land that the United States took from you back in the Mexican-American War. Okay? And so the note from Germany to Mexico and the sinking of the Lusitania got the United States fired up, and we're like, all right, we're in this war, even though it had been going on for a long time. That's why it was originally called the Great War, the War in Europe, and of course, as we know, the war to end all wars. Okay, so the United States. My Chromebook's been slow today. I should start clicking it and then talk. The United States does enter the war. Our president at the time was Woodrow Wilson. And ironically, he was a 2-term president, which means he got elected twice. And the second time he ran for president and was elected, he ran with the campaign slogan that said, he kept us out of war. And the reason that that is ironic is because he's reelected in 1916. We'll see if this works better here. Okay. He's reelected in 1916 with the campaign slogan, he kept us out of war. And then in 1917, we go to war. So he's basically like, saying he ran for re-election saying, hey, I kept us out of war. I'm going to keep us out of the war. And then 1917, he's like, all right, we're in the war. I'm not going to click on that video link. I'll show you though. See, it's this Wilson. Do you remember that movie? Castaway. So if I was in school, like this whole entire time, like every time we would talk about Woodrow Wilson, I'd be like, Wilson! Okay, because that's Wilson, the volleyball. And we had a president, Woodrow Wilson, not to be confused with. Again, Woody, Sheriff Woody. So you have Woody and Wilson. Of course, both those movies that are played by Tom Hanks. And we actually have, we combine the two names, Woody, and Wilson, and we get Woodrow Wilson. And you'll see him. Oh, no, that's Tom Hanks again. My bad. Tom Hanks. He wasn't Woody or Wilson, but I don't remember his name. I just remember the volleyball's name. I think the volleyball did the best job in that movie. There's Woodrow Wilson. That's Woodrow Wilson. He kept us out of war, and then we go to war. Okay? He declared war on Germany and enters the war in April of 1917. So he got reelected in 1916 in November. He's re-sworn in January, and then in April, the United States goes to war, which probably needed to happen. Basically, the ulterior motive would be saying that, you know what, the United States started realizing that like the side that we wanted to win might not win this war. So we saw it as pretty essential to get into the war. Wilson starts declaring, like basically the tide was turning. And it looks like now the allies that we fought with, so Great Britain, France, Russia, and a lot of other countries, it looked like we were going to start winning the war. And Wilson came up with his 14 points for after the war was over. Now, remember, this was still while the war was going on, but Wilson said, okay, here's our 14 points for world peace, so we never have a major war again. Didn't exactly work, but this was his plan. So again, we would be writing stuff in yellow, but you don't have to do any writing. So he proposed 14 points. The war was still going on and did still go on for 11 more months after this, basically. But he said, okay, point number 1, 2, 3, 4, and he lists all these points. He wanted to make the world safe for democracy, and he wants to create a lasting world peace. And basically, he brings these to the European countries, and they're like, no. We don't like these points. He wanted to reduce the size of armies. He wants to open up trade. He had all these plans, and the United States liked everything except the League of Nations. That was like point 14. So he proposes this League of Nations that they're all going to like unite to keep the world safe, right? So the United States likes 13 points and doesn't like the 14th point, which was the League of Nations, and the European countries liked the idea of the League of Nations, but nothing else. So the United States likes points 1 through 13, but not 14. Europe didn't like 1 through 13, but they liked 14. In the end, what ends up happening is points 1 through 13. Nobody does them in Europe, but they do adopt the League of Nations. However, the United States, because we didn't like the League of Nations, doesn't join. And ultimately, because the United States doesn't join, the League of Nations fails. And the ironic part is the League of Nations failing was mainly because the United States didn't join, and it was the United States' idea to form the League of Nations. Long story short, this was not the war to end all wars, like it was said to be. And let's see, we'll get to the end of the war, and the official end of the war was known as Armistice Day. Armistice means a ceasefire, okay? So we have like 3 A words. Assassination of, do you remember who got assassinated? On June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand by Gavrilo Principe. We have A for attrition. Attrition means both sides are losing the war. And finally, we have armistice. Armistice means it is a ceasefire. Anybody know when that is? Can't remember how these bullet points come up. Fighting ended. It's the official end. It ends on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the year 19. Did you guess the year? So the fighting ends on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the year 1918. Did some of you say 1911? You may have. Usually in class people do, because I kind of set it up that way. But it ends in 19. It couldn't have ended in 1911 because the war didn't actually start until 1914. Crazy thing is, the ceasefire was predetermined at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the year 1918. That was the official ceasefire, but fighting actually continued up until that moment. So there was still it was kind of like the end of a sporting event where it's like the clock ran out and the fighting was over. And then both sides, just like a sporting event, guess what they did? They got out of their trenches and they met at no man's land. And they celebrated, they hugged, they drank together, they smoked together. And people are like, what? Why would they do that? Well, they did that because they were just happy the war was over. They didn't necessarily, the German soldiers didn't hate the French soldiers and the English soldiers didn't hate the Austrian and Hungarian soldiers. They just were fighting because that's what they're supposed to do. And then when it's over, they're all just really happy that the war is over and that they were still alive. So it's kind of a crazy thing that happened. And that was known as Armistice Day. That was the official ceasefire. And that's November 11th. November 11th is no longer Armistice Day. What is it called now? Veterans Day. So worldwide, November 11th was known as Armistice Day for a long time. The United States, after World War II and other wars, said, you know what? This Armistice Day was supposed to recognize the veterans of World War I. But we said basically, hey, we've had other wars, and we want to celebrate all those wars, which is why now in the United States, November 11th is called Veterans Day. Okay? Oh. And the treaty that wraps it up is called the Treaty of Versailles. Do you remember who lived in Versailles? That's right, Marie Antoinette and King Louis until Treaty of Versailles, because it was signed in Versailles. Treaty of Versailles basically ends the war. It's actually signed. It was signed in in Versailles, which is in Paris. It was signed when? It was signed on June 28th, 1919. Exactly 5 years to the day after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Treaty of Versailles officially ends the war, even though it had been done fighting for about 7 months. It ignores most of Wilson's 14 points except the League of Nations, blames and punishes Germany and says that they have to pay for the war. Those payments were called reparations. And the United States did not join the League of Nations. And it had no army, so it was kind of ineffective. Basically, the Treaty of Versailles sets the stage for World War II because Germany takes the blame and they take the L in the war. They take blame for the war. They're supposed to repay everybody, and things in Germany kind of collapse, and everything is going pretty poorly until a leader emerges in Germany promising to bring Germany back to world dominance. And of course, you do know who that leader is. Adolf Hitler. He preys on the fears and insecurities of the Germans, and he promises them glory, and people listened. And that's what sets the stage to World War II. And that's it for World War I. Take the quizzes. There's 2 of them this week. If you do have questions, feel free to email, send a remind message, come to the Google Classroom meeting. And other than that, I hope you are doing well, staying safe, and remember, go to bed early and charge your Chromebooks. Yeah. Thanks for checking in. We'll talk to you guys later. Yeah.